have a horrible cold. I probably look very pale. The battery isn't working that well on my camera. But it is the 29th of October and I will be damned if I am not making a pumpkin carving video ready for Halloween. You get a little vegetable knife and you want to cut the top out, and you want to make sure you do it as small a top as possible so you've got enough of the front free for your pattern. Okay, and you pull the top off. I have already pulled it off. You want to cut all this off with a massive bread knife, because serrated knives work the best. Just in case you're wondering, this dining room table is covered with a thick layer of vinyl, and there's a tray and everything. You can't see it because I am so tall and the table is so short and I couldn't get them both in shot. So we've got the top there. You want to cut a bit more off than that. Lots of people save the pumpkin inside, I think maybe for soups, but I make such a pig's ear of it and it looks like such a mess. I'm not willing to do that. You can always trim that a bit more later. And then inside, some people don't know what the inside of a pumpkin looks like, but it's basically like a butternut squash. And you need to scrape all that out. And using a bread knife again. And pulling out all the gross stuff inside. Right, you end up scraping out most of the inside with a dessert spoon and bruising your wrist in the process. So you end up with a nice heavy hollow pumpkin. God, this thing is heavy. If you look at pumpkins, they usually grow on their side, so you get this really nasty back on it. So you need to choose which side you want to put your pattern, which is the nice front smooth side, and that's really when you use the bread knife or serrated knife. And what you need to do is make that front bit as thin as possible, because it'll make it easier to cut into when you put your stencil on it. Right, sometimes if you cut it and there's a flat front, you can use your bread knife to really get around there. But I couldn't today, so instead I had to score it with a little knife, and you end up having to scrape it out with a dessert spoon, which is kind of hard on your wrists. Anyway, so what you need to do then after you have a nice hollow pumpkin, is you need to rinse it out with some water, because it gets all the little bits out, but it also imparts some moisture into the pumpkin so it'll last a bit longer. And you also end up with a big pile of stuff looking like this. This is why I don't make pumpkin soup out of it, because it looks so awful. And after you've done your pumpkin, you need to carve it, unless you're like me and you have 4 pumpkins to do for Halloween, and you probably don't want to see me carve the rest of those. So, okay, and after you've hollowed out 4 pumpkins, which I doubt you'll do, I just like getting ahead of myself, you can get these stencils. I suppose you could do the old jack-o'-lantern face, but I like this website called Zombie Pumpkins, and I'll put the link down there. And you can get stencils for things like this is Captain America, and I've got a few others to do. The best thing to do is actually cut. You can print them out on A4 paper. The best thing is to cut round them and then sort of fit them to the side of the pumpkin face with sellotape. They don't really fit that well. You have to scrunch them up a bit, but you'll find that as you do the cutting, you can sort of move the paper around. Okay, now for the fun part, all the carving, which will take me a very long time. So we'll speed this bit up.
Funds represent about $1 trillion, but if you look at the demographics, Islamic finance is expected to grow very substantially and fall. Sensational 80-piece BBC concert orchestra as they perform spooky scores from film, musicals, and the great classics, including Jaws, Psycho, Tubular. Near 38, it's southbound, south of Burton-on-Trent, and not far from Barton underneath. There's an accident on the southbound side, blocking a lane. Says Jerry Ellis around 324, 25. That's the A1. And A10 exits. This accident, a very nasty accident from the roadworks, causing a few narrows. What's blocked both ways at Ilminster? They've managed to reopen the westbound side, but it remains blocked eastbound. Greater Anglia services are suspended between Stratford and Bishop Stortford.
See, that's what happens when you don't make the front face thin enough. You end up having to use things like skewers, and you have to bring your knives back into it. But look at it, he's done now. And once you've done it, you get all these kind of scraggly bits, so you have to run it under some water and kind of pushes them back in. Then when you put in a candle, you usually spot the bits that you have to pick out as well. But of course, it always looks better in the dark.